Bleav NFL Live coming at you in 5, 4. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Bleav NFL Live. We are here live right now, week 2, to break down another wild Sunday in the NFL. The Bleav Sports Network has 32 NFL podcasts. We have 32 former NFL players assigned to each and every single team. And this show, every single week, will feature our wildly talented and entertaining roster, beginning every Sunday at 4 p.m. Pacific time. Thanks so much for jumping in. Thanks so much if you're coming in a little bit later. Comment and question below. Toss us a question if you want. You can follow me on Twitter at Joey Sports Guy and follow our main page at Bleav Sports. Coming up today, we have Bleav in Panthers host and Sports Illustrated's very own Desmond Johnson coming up at about 4:10 Pacific time. And then Bleav in Lions host Jack Kavanaugh hopping on also to join in on the fun at about 4:40 Pacific time. But first, my co-host for week 2, he is the host of Bleav in Steelers. Many would say that is the crown jewel of the Bleav NFL universe that we have going on right now. He's one of my favorite voices in sports. He's a good man. He's also got some Chicago ties, so stick around to the very end as we preview Bears-Packers. It's Mr. Mark Bergen. What's up, Mark?
Joey, I will take entertaining, but wildly talented, I'm not so certain about. Thank you so much for having me.
Look, you're going to have to be the one that's going to have to spin Mitch Trubisky, staying the starter through Thursday and into week 4 moving forward as it careens off the side of the road. That takes some skill, my friend. It takes some skill.
I know we could start there, but Joey, I know we just got this push alert about Trey Lance likely out for the season. Whenever they bring the card out, that's not good, but the 49ers have to be thanking themselves because they kept Jimmy G around. And I know everyone was like, oh, he's going to be out of here. And it's like almost like with the ex-girlfriend is, do you keep her in the loop? And no, this is Trey Lance's team. But the 49ers have to be thanking their lucky stars because at least they have a guy who's demonstrated that he can take this team deep into the postseason. A year ago, like, look, Jimmy G does have some limitations, but he was playing hurt a year ago with the shoulder injury. And now it's like plug and play. At least you have who is probably the best backup in the NFL. Am I wrong here?
Well, I find it so ironic, too, that I think that we like to talk about head coach Kyle Shanahan being an offensive genius, this guru, the guy who sees things a mile away. And I think a lot of people in 49ers land want to see Trey Lance as the starting quarterback. And then they kept Jimmy G. Was it a genius move to keep Jimmy G around? But now it's working out perfectly, Mark, because now Trey Lance could be out for the entire season. I don't know how to buy into – I mean, I'm with you. Luck, I think, is the correct word there. And I think with Jimmy G, I think they're just as valid and potent playoff team as they were a year before. And as you mentioned, that shoulder, as it continues to get better throughout the season, I mean, this worked out again for the genius Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah, genius. I mean, look, I'm not going to wish injury upon any player, but at the same time, it's like if the 49ers weren't going to get something very formidable back, this is exactly why you keep Jimmy G on your roster. And now the 49ers will have to figure out, okay, he's in the final year of his contract. And I know that they wanted to give Trey Lance that starting job this season. What do the 49ers do beyond the 2022 season is kind of what I have my eyes on. But not all is lost because you bring Jimmy G in. And look, we might think about Jimmy G very, very differently. If not for an overthrow in the Super Bowl, or it was the NFC Championship game, Super Bowl, a few years back, if not for an overthrow. Might be thinking of Jimmy G. Yes, the Super Bowl against the Chiefs. Might be thinking of him very, very differently than we do now. And I know he's the butt of a lot of jokes, but this is exactly why you keep him in case this happens. And if you're not going to get fair value in return, I know he has a big contract, but it's like we want to run him out of town. I have a slogan, Joey. You never leave a good time for a good time. And I know that the 49ers wanted to make this Trey Lance's team, but it's like you've seen what Jimmy G can do. Again, is he going to be Patrick Mahomes? No. Is he going to be an elite level quarterback? No. But you made it to the freaking Super Bowl and you almost won the Super Bowl with this guy as your starter. And now at least, I mean, the 49ers don't have a choice. And this is a good option to have. Can you imagine they would have gotten rid of Jimmy G? I don't even know who their third stringer is, but this is a better situation to be in than to deal him away, and then the season's lost.
Blake Gavrett's text messages are blowing up right now because he could possibly now be back in the NFL. Yeah, I don't even know who the 49ers backup is. Mark, you mentioned it. This is a really important lesson for people in their 20s. Now, for people in your 20s, I know we want to chase the great time, right? But sometimes you go to a friend's party and it's amazing. The dip is awesome. The snacks are fantastic. Great music, good laughs, great conversation. And then someone comes over and goes, hey, do you want to go to this high-rise party? It's downtown.
It's what I'm talking about, Joey.
Pool. It sounds like the night of your life, but could you already be having a great time, just enough to possibly succeed and have a perfect Saturday night? Is that the 49ers situation?
Let me double down on this, Joey. Stay at that first party and double dip the chip. I'm going to go full Seinfeld here. Double dip the chip. Stay at that first party. Enjoy the guac. Enjoy the salsa and the queso. Lesson learned here on Bleav Live here, NFL Week 2.
Be the guy who the Dorito bag isn't open, but you open the Doritos bag and you start going at it. Or you're the one that starts like getting the crumb bottom of the bag and making it happen.
A full elbow, Joey.
Yeah, one more thing about the 49ers before we move on to the other games. There's a lot to talk about today here on Bleav NFL Live. But, I did find it really interesting, with Shanahan, how they wanted to utilize Trey Lance. You want to protect him from making mistakes in the passing game, so then you use him as an in-between the tackle runner. That happened a lot week 1. We saw it again week 2. I'm not saying that led to an injury. That's an impossible thing to say. But the way that they were utilizing a young kid, really kind of putting him in harm's way, you worry about a quarterback outside the pocket. Did you feel anything about that, or do you just think that was them trying to utilize his skills because he is really physical and he's a fast quarterback?
No, utilize his skill set, Joey. I'm not going to go there because the modern NFL requires your quarterbacks to have a little bit of wheels. Gone are the days where it's the Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Drew Bledsoe, drop back, classic, in the pocket quarterback. If a quarterback has legs, what that does to a defense is you have to play 11 on 11 and you have to respect a quarterback's ability to run. I'm not saying everyone's going to be Lamar Jackson, but it keeps a defense honest and you can play 11 on 11 in terms of you get one extra blocker versus if you have that traditional pocket passer, it's just an element that your offense isn't going to have. We've seen a ton of teams do this now in 2022 with their quarterbacks. So I'm not going to go there. And look, hindsight's 2020. There's going to be someone who says it come Monday of, oh, the 49ers should have done more to protect Trey Lance. But that's just the reality of the modern landscape of the NFL as we see it today in 2020.
Yeah, nature of the beast. I think you convinced me on that front. It was a wild day in the NFL. I don't know if I would call it entertaining. Entertaining in maybe the sense of just mistakes and block punts and comebacks and amazing things happening. There were 6 underdogs that I think won today. Mark, just hop in. What stood out to you?
I've got a stat for you that I think will blow your mind. The last time the Lions, Jets, and Jags won on the same day, December 11th, 2011. So we're talking more than a decade. All 3 teams, the Lions, the Jets, and the Jags have won. Welcome to week 2 of the NFL 2022 season, Joey.
I'm in my 20s and I'm at those parties, my man. That's when I'm double dipping those chips. That's how long ago that was. That's an incredible stat. And I think for a large part of the Sunday, we did not think that was going to happen. We thought the Lions were going to run away with it. They almost gave it back. The Jets come from behind in the most insane way possible. Joe Flacco, AFC North brethren right here. Joe Flacco is back. How do you unpack giving up 2 touchdowns to Joe Flacco in a minute 55 in your home stadium as a Browns fan? I don't even know where to start. Let's start with the Corey Davis touchdown, which honestly
it's just the Joe Flacco revenge game, Joey, to where he gets revenge against a Browns team that he played against several times as the starting quarterback of the Ravens, going up against them twice a year. Again, what's old is new, and Joe Flacco revenge game. You love to see it. And I'll say this too. The Bengals are getting smacked right now too. Not a great day overall for the AFC North, Joey.
Yeah, we're going to get into a little bit of what happened with the Steelers-Patriots game today because, yeah, you're right. The AFC North is looking like it's trending towards 1-1 across the board and then heading into the Week 3 kickoff of Thursday Night Football of Steelers and Browns. We've got Desmond Johnson coming in here in just a second here. He's going to talk a little bit of Panthers-Giants, a little general NFL. Desmond Johnson is the host of Bleav in Panthers. He also works for Sports Illustrated too as well. He has a fantastic show called Tobacco Road Radio. He's doing fantastic things for it. I mean, before we bring him in, Mark, an interesting game I thought it was going to be McCaffrey versus Saquon. It didn't really work out like that. It came down to a little bit more of, I guess, the quarterback play. I mean, were you able to catch any of that game? There was some tough sledding there.
Listen, I don't want to steal Desmond's thunder, and he's going to have a heck of a lot more insight than I will. But the Panthers starting out 0-2, the two natural questions would be, okay, is Baker your guy moving forward? I'm not sure Sam Darnold would fare that much better. But the bigger question is year 3 of Matt Rule. How long are the Panthers going to stick around with him? And I would love to see what the odds are, Joey, but I would not be surprised if he was the odds-on favorite for first coach fired, just because he struggled through 3 seasons thus far in Carolina.
I know he's jacked up. I know he's excited to talk about it. Let's bring him in here onto the Bleav NFL live stream. Desmond Johnson of Bleav in Panthers. My friend, it's good to see you, man. Thanks so much for jumping on the live stream, man. How are you today? Let's just talk about how your general well-being is before we talk about the general well-being of the Carolina Panthers.
Good evening, everyone. I am Desmond Johnson. I'll be your bus driver this evening of the Fire Matt Rule bus. Just now pulling into the parking lot. I've tried to defend this guy for over a year. It feels like now. And it feels like Groundhog's Day. That's what it feels like now, because it's not like the Panthers are getting blown out. In fact, that's the frustrating thing about it. They are losing 3 points or less like every single time. And to me, today was the first day where like we got out of the first quarter and my mind was already turning to, you know what? We probably should fire Matt Rule. Like it flipped to, we should probably go ahead and fire Matt Rule before this gets out of hand, because the roster for the Panthers on paper, this is a playoff caliber roster that they've assembled on this team. Baker Mayfield wasn't the issue today. He had 4 or 5 drops from the wide receivers that hit him right in the palm of their hands or fingers, that they just dropped the football. I was pleased that they remembered they had Christian McCaffrey on the team this week, because last week they literally forgot he was there for the first half for some reason. They made a concentrated effort to get him involved, and it showed immediately why he's the best player on the team. One of our keys of the game in the Bleav in Panthers podcast on Thursday, one of them was give the ball to your best player. That was one of our keys. That's where we are with the Panthers. Our keys were tackle, run the football, give it to your best player. That was our 3 keys to win this game today. And they still couldn't get it right. So how am I feeling? I don't know. I don't know how I feel. I feel like I don't know. I'm lost in this like soup of expectations. I got clowned from the charity strike because I picked the Panthers to win 11 wins, and I was basing it off the roster that they had assembled. What I didn't expect to happen was that the coaching staff was going to sabotage any kind of possibility of getting the double-digit wins, but just sheer ineptitude. Like, it's a college football coach coaching an NFL team, and it's been that way since he got here. I have zero reason to believe that all of a sudden Matt Rule is going to figure out how to win close games, because he's had opportunity. I sent you a graphic, Joey, earlier that somebody had sent to me that kind of says it all. The Panthers under Matt Rule, 1-24 when they allow 17 plus points in a game. They are 9-0 when they allow 16 or fewer.
Mark, as a Bears and Steelers person, can you believe that stat? Can you believe that stat?
No, and especially in the modern NFL where it's going to favor offenses too. That is an unbelievable stat, Desmond.
It's a high school stat.
Exactly. Now, I'll say this with CMC, I'm pleased because it's a 17-game regular season. Let's keep him healthy, bring him along, because he has hardly played the past 2 seasons. I hear what you're saying in terms of getting him the rock, because when he has the ball in his hands, he's as good as there is in the league. But the upsell with Rule this year would be, okay, I'm looking back to his college days. First 2 years at Temple, he goes 2-10, 6-6, 10-4 in year 3 at Baylor. 1-11, 7-6, 11-3. Year 3 had been the key. So that was the upside with Matt Rule. Year 3, maybe the Panthers, maybe they can do the reverse of what they did last year, though, Desmond, because Panthers started out 3-0 a season ago, and then the wheels fell off. I know injuries contributed a lot to that. Maybe he can reverse course here. I know there's always one team in the league every year that starts out 0-2 and then goes on and make a playoff run, but Panthers have an uphill battle from here.
Yeah, I'm not buying that brand. I've literally watched.
You shutting it down immediately.
You sound like me last year around about this time, where I'm convincing myself, oh, maybe they can do this, maybe they can do that. Here's the problem. They hired Ben McAdoo to be offensive coordinator, right? Ben McAdoo runs a West Coast offense. Matt Rule himself told us in the media last year what he wants the team identity to be: a run-first, defensive-minded, smart, tough-nosed football team. So then you go out and you hire an offensive coordinator that doesn't believe in running the ball first, and you get a guy that wants to run a West Coast offense, and you didn't know who your quarterback was going to be when you brought him in. It's little things like that that not McAdoo, but that Matt Rule has done, and the cumulative, like all of it. Now, I'm just now kind of opening my eyes to like everything he's done over the past 3 off seasons, because he's had built-in passes since he got here. He got here, it was the year of COVID, so he didn't even meet his players until August or whatever it was, or July. So we kind of figured, okay, they cleared half the roster out. It's going to take a little bit of time. Last year, after 2 drafts, still the same thing. Saw some sparks, lost his quarterback, or just bet wrong on the quarterback. Didn't have McCaffrey again. So we're thinking, you get a healthy McCaffrey, you fix the quarterback situation and the O-line, everything else is kind of in place. They've done all that. They fixed the offensive line. Baker Mayfield is an upgrade to Sam Darnold. Like, I haven't really seen anything the past 2 weeks that made me alarmed that they went out and got Baker Mayfield for $5 million or whatever it ends up being. And the offensive line's been fixed. But it's like they do things to contradict themselves all the time. Like, why would you keep McCaffrey in bubble wrap all preseason out of fear of him getting worked, and then not use him in the first half at all last week? It's just things like that they do that I have zero indication they're going to change. And I'd rather Tepper make a switch. Like, if they lose to New Orleans next week and we're 0-3, that would be 10 straight losses for the Panthers going back to last year. At that point, it might be Bloody Monday in Charlotte. Like, I really feel like Tepper's probably getting close to entertaining these thoughts.
Joey, can I hop in here really quickly with the Panthers, because I think this goes up even higher than head coach Desmond, if I may here. Sure. You bring in Mayfield, which you almost think about like you go to a steak dinner with your friend and your friend decides to pick up the tab and he says to you, hey, all you have to pay for is the tip. That's essentially what the Panthers are doing with Mayfield. But look at what they also did to bring the other quarterbacks in that they have on the roster, considering Sam Darnold also has a hefty salary. You draft the kid from Ole Miss, PJ Walker's also on your roster. 2 years back. 2 years back, you bring in Teddy Bridgewater. So it's just like they're allocating all of this salary and draft capital on the quarterback position to where it's just like, why couldn't you just get it right on the first time? Why does that matter? You could use those moves to make other upgrades on your roster, but instead you're allocating money and draft capital at the quarterback position. There's only going to be one quarterback that plays. So yeah, we can point to Matt Rule, but if you look at the misallocation of money and draft picks at the quarterback position with the Panthers, it's just one example of how I think it's more of a fundamental organizational problem, not just the head coach.
See, I'm still going to point a finger at Matt Rule, because Matt Rule has had his finger on everything that you just said. Like, even though he's just the head coach, it kind of is laid out where he was the final decision maker on a lot of those draft choices, those quarterbacks he brought in. They wanted Deshaun Watson. They just didn't want to pay $250 million guaranteed to him. That's the only reason why Deshaun Watson's not in Carolina, because they called us before Cleveland jumped back in. Cleveland found out about what he wanted and like, here, take all this money. We'll take you. No one was going to pick to go to Cleveland, to play football there. That's what happened. He got the deal from them after Carolina and Atlanta said no. The Teddy Bridgewater thing, I get it. It's really come down to they have vastly underestimated being able to evaluate quarterbacks at an NFL level, Matt Rule in particular, and they've lost a couple years because of it. Think of it like this, and this is what hit me at the end of this game. Out of everything that I could have thought of, the Panthers losing yet another close game. The past 3 years should have been the prime of Christian McCaffrey's career. Yeah. Like, he should be in his prime. He was a top 3 NFL player at the end of 2019. And in a West Coast offense, he should shine. Like, the running backs he's compared to the most are Marshall Faulk and Roger Craig. Those are the 2 running backs that have done what he's done, 1,000 yards receiving, 1,000 yards rushing in a single season. Well, Roger Craig played in the West Coast offense in San Francisco. Marshall Faulk played the greatest show on turf and with the St. Louis Rams, where it was heavily run through the running back and it was through the air. We're running that offense, but it's like we can't figure out how to fit him in it. That's a coaching thing to me. That's at that point, if you've got the personnel that fits what you're trying to do, and you're still messing up, or you're still little things like fumbling on the opening kickoff, just not being able to catch the ball. There was no energy. Like Matt Rule shows no energy on the sideline, and the team reflects that. And because of that, they came out flat again, and they're not able to adjust. I don't see a way for them to remedy this without them letting Matt Rule go. And for those that think that David Tepper won't pay $45 million or whatever on a buyout, he just shoved $180 million in steel over off of Interstate 77 for the Panthers practice facility that got shut down in Rock Hill, South Carolina. And he's going to walk away from it and still be worth $14 billion. So I don't think he's going to really care much about $45 million to pay out to Rule to bring in somebody else.
That goes back to my point, though, of misallocating draft picks, though. You're trading a second-round pick, a third-round pick, 2 fourth-rounders, a fifth, and a sixth to get a quarterback room of Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Matt Corral, and P.J. Walker. Oh, by the way, who combined for the 10th highest salary among quarterbacks in the league. What are we talking about?
What are we doing?
That's why, in my opinion, the quickest way to remedy this whole thing is just what you mentioned, Desmond, is Christian McCaffrey. I mean, I'm just looking at it right now. You know, they're 2 of 12 on third down, right? Which I think 2 or 3 of those came on drops or whatever. So you can kind of throw and say that number is or whatever. But I'm counting here 29 pass attempts for Baker Mayfield, 6 rushing attempts for him. Obviously, when the play broke down, he tried to get something out of it. I only got 15 carries for Christian McCaffrey, 4 receptions. He had a 49-yard gash in the middle of the game. And look, the rest of the time you're saying, well, what else? That's 14 carries for 50 yards. I mean, you said it, Marshall Faulk. Go back even further, Adrian Peterson. I know we're not in that era anymore, but he is that dual threat back where if you're not getting him 20 to 25 carries, you're not going to score those 17 points, Desmond.
Yep,
break that 1-24 record. So just to follow up, are you saying if the Panthers lose next week, Matt Rule's got to go? Do you think they would actually do that? Do they have the stones to do that at 0-3?
I mean, if it was up to me, Matt Rule's got to go like Monday at 10 a.m. tomorrow. But I think I'm trying to see when their bye is.
Is the Matt Rule bus driving to his house right now?
It's asking Google for directions for sure. Google's a little confused. They don't know where to go, but it's asking for directions. I'm trying to find the week that they have their bye because look at the stretch of games the Panthers have coming up. They got to go through the NFC West. So after the Saints, it's home against the Cardinals, home against the 49ers, at Rams, home against the Bucks, and then at Atlanta. So I don't see their bye is not till week 13.
Wow.
Their bye is not till week 13. They're not going to wait 13 weeks to fire Matt Rule if this continues. I would say, honestly, if it goes down, because in his press conference post-game, he was kind of saying, well, we haven't even started NFC South play yet and all this other stuff. So he kind of built himself an excuse that we still have stuff in front of us. Well, that's next week. And if they show up like they have the past 2 weeks, I don't know what he can say at the podium that would make sense, that would appease Panther Nation. Because right now, there's probably pitchforks and torches and stuff like heading towards Bank of America Stadium. Like the buzz was already there, but now it's like the ones that were trying to stay out of it. Now we're starting to jump in. I was the leader of let's hold on and wait. I'm holding a pitchfork right now too. Like we need to get rid of this guy and salvage the season. But it all comes down to David Tepper and how much he honestly believes in Matt Rule's process, I guess.
Desmond, what is glass half full? If you liked anything from the Panthers through 2 weeks, even though you stand at 0-2?
I like that.
Glass half full.
I'm an optimistic guy, which is why I asked this question.
Baker's not a train wreck. He's capable.
The hesitation tells Joey. The hesitation tells me everything.
I kind of knew that Baker would be fine. I wanted Baker Mayfield. I felt like his spunk was what they needed because Sam Darnold didn't really have emotion either. And I'm a believer your quarterback has to be the one emotionally that drives the team. And I thought Baker could do that with the talent around him. I would say, honestly, until the second half, I was impressed with the defense and how they were holding Saquon Barkley. I think at one point he was like -3 yards or something in the first half. He finished with 71, and he's kind of the one that put them away. And it goes back to what you're saying before about how they've drafted funny. Defensive coordinator Phil Snow, he likes small, fast linebackers, which is fine in college. But in the pros, if they're out there a long period of time, by the fourth quarter, they get worn down. And we've watched it every single game the Panthers have lost where a team will just hold the ball and advance it for 5, 6, 7 minutes. and wear these dudes out. The Giants had the ball for like a 7-minute drive at the very end and kick a 50-plus yard field goal. Thanks, Graham Gano, former Panther. And that was it. That was the game. And you could see the Panthers defense was just gassed at that point. And it's the same script every single week. They never adjust. I've just never seen it before. I miss Ron Rivera. I miss Ron Rivera. I wish there was a way that we could go back in time and figure out a way to give this talent, this roster to Ron Rivera. Because I feel like Ron Rivera would actually do something with it. There'd be something to be, happy about. I'm not really happy right now, Mark.
Hey, I got one for you. I got a good reason why the Carolina Panthers can be positive and optimistic right now. And this is the perfect pivot. Mark, I want you to go first, and Des, I want you to weigh in. It's a Sunday stepping on a Monday take. We're going to see this tomorrow morning. What's going on with Tom Brady? Let's be honest. He's going to be fine. He's going to win some games, but is it officially? I mean, he had 5.6 yards per completion today. I know the receivers are banged up. And is this Tom Brady 40 touchdown a season Tom Brady, or is this a finally a different version that is still competitive and successful? But if he comes down a tier, Saints, Jameis Winston looks a little banged up, right? They're up and down. Kamara's hurt right now. You guys got to win next week, but you can hang around. I'm just pitching. And the Falcons are frisky, but they don't scare you.
No.
And so Mark, anything with Tom Brady so far that you've seen? I mean, you'd think a 45-year-old would come out of the season slinging it and then maybe regress as the season goes along. I mean, are we playing the game that we've played 1,000 times?
Joey, when you say slinging it, are we talking footballs or tablets?
I think the over was 1.5 tablets. I think it smashed the over today. Unbelievable.
I'm not going to bet against Brady. Look, it hasn't looked great through 2 weeks, but you're sitting at 2-0. Think about how many other fan bases would we love to be sitting at 2-0. Desmond's shaking his head, raising his hand. Again, I'm not going to overreact yet because we've done I'm not going to bet against Tom Brady. I know he's 45. He's probably not quite what he was. He also led the league in passing last season.
I know.
He led the NFL in passing last season. So until the wheels fully come off, I'd rather be late to that train than to be I'm going to lead the charge, age 45. This is it. And they go on and win another Super Bowl. So it hasn't looked great, but I'm not betting against Brady.
Desmond, can you at least agree that your division hasn't come out of the gate swinging? And maybe that gives you a little something there to be okay, we can.
You're spinning this full circle, Joey. I see what you're doing.
Honestly, if I took a step back and looked at it, the Panthers lost 2 games they should have won. They lost 2, one-possession games within the last 2 minutes of the game or whatever. So on that aspect, Matt Rule is correct. They're close. But they've been close for a year or so. I don't know if they're going to get over the hump this year. As for Tom Brady, I've jumped in front of that train before, and it also said I won't doubt him again. But there's a caveat to that. I've always felt like pro athletes, when they start thinking about retirement, they're already retired. So for him to have only been gone for 40 days and then come back, almost what am I going to do? Spur of the moment felt like he came back, and then he's had to deal with the fallout of him coming back ever since he came back, personally and everything else. I don't know if he's if he's happy he made the right decision to come back. He probably should have left after 2020, to be honest. When Tampa Bay won the Super Bowl, he could have walked off John Elway style. And I think it's the ego part of Brady that didn't, because he won that Super Bowl in front of no fans. So I think that's why he came back. And then last year, like Mark said, he led the league in passing. I think that's fool's gold for him, because that makes him think, I can keep doing this forever. Bro, you are 45 years old. I'm 44. I don't play professional sports. It's a chore for me to get to the bathroom in the morning. And this guy's out here playing NFL football. It has to come to an end eventually. We were going to see this in front of our eyes eventually. I think we're watching it right now. I really think we're watching it right now.
The other problem too, Des, just real quick, is that they only had 72 rushing yards today, I believe. So
that's the problem.
If that isn't happening for Tom Brady at this, he still needs that running game or some sort of balance to work that play action a little bit. If he can't get that going, that's going to be a problem. I just kind of felt honestly, the game was unwatchable. And Tom Brady's games have always been highly, highly, highly watchable, and I just wasn't really feeling that. It's just a rough start for them to get off to. Look, Mark, I'm with you, man. At the end of the year, 10 wins, right? 11 wins in the playoffs. But I would start having a little concerns if we were thinking that they are Super Bowl contenders right now, and maybe that kind of opens up the NFC a little bit more. Des, I want to talk to you. Let's talk a little bit about some of these live games that are going right now. We have Raiders are up 23-15. Arizona's in the red zone right now, and incomplete pass. But you want to talk a little bit about Bengals Cowboys. Cowboys just wrapped up. They won 20-17. I'll be honest with you, my confidence pool is smashed. My survivor pool is smashed. I took the Bengals this week. I just thought bounce back, and I thought enough from the Bengals offensively could overcome whatever was going on. But how many sacks did they end up with? 6. They gave up another 6 sacks. Something along those lines. It could have been more. I've been doing this live stream.
They gave up 6.
If what do you think? What do you take away more from the game? The resiliency of the Cowboys or the problems going on with the Bengals offensively?
I'm also old enough to know never trust the Cincinnati Bengals. Like, they're never good 2 years in a row. So when they made the Super Bowl last year, I looked at it like this wasn't a product of them drafting well for years or just because they got Joe Burrow. They got hot at the end of the year and survived a shootout, basically, and they're in the Super Bowl. So it was like I knew coming in this year they did not have an offensive line. I know they spent a bunch of money trying to fix it, but that didn't mean it was fixed. Joe Burrow got sacked again 6 times. I'm worried about Joe Burrow's health. Like I'm really concerned he's not going to be able to play a long career because his offensive line is going to get him killed. I was really actually impressed with Cooper Rush. I thought he played really well to come in as the backup. And I think Dallas kind of figured out a formula to win. Now, granted, Cincinnati made it close at the very end, tied the game up, and Dallas had to go down there and score. But if Dallas can run the ball with Zeke Elliott and Tony Pollard and depend on their defense, because most of their stars are on defense. Trayvon Diggs, Anthony Barr, DeMarcus Lawrence, Micah Parsons. I mean, they've got dudes on the defensive side, and they can actually, if they can just play defense and play these kind of grinded out games where the running attack kind of keeps the ball away from the other team, I think Dallas can actually hold on and win some of these games with Dak out. Now, I don't believe Dak can come back after 4 weeks from a broken thumb. Like, I think that's just Jerry Jones trying to pray it in existence, really. But even if he does, I think it's his throwing hand on top of it. So even if he comes back after 4 weeks, we have no idea how he's going to perform. So I don't know. Cowboys are interesting. I don't trust the Bengals. The division they're in is probably one of the toughest in football. I think by the time we get to the end of the year, we're going to see how tough they are. Having said that, the Browns lost to the Jets today. So that just compiled on top of my Panther grief that we let a win get away, and then that team went off and lost to the New York Jets the very next week. It's football, guys.
Our clean sweep in the AFC North today. Your reaction to the Bengals today, and let's crack open a little AFC North here.
I'll piggyback off what Desmond said. The Bengals have 4 new starters on the offensive line this season. They bring in Lyle Collins from the Cowboys, Alex Kappa to shore up the offensive line. Burrow gets sacked 7 times a week ago, turned over 5 times. So you clean that up a little bit in week 2, but oh wait, you give up 6 more sacks. And this was, look, like I'm pretty sure part of Joe Burrow's carcass is still at Nissan Stadium in Tennessee because somehow he won a playoff game against the Titans. Yeah. And he was sacked like 1 million times. Yeah. And it's rinse and repeat to where maybe it's not all on the offensive line. Maybe Burrow needs to get rid of the ball a little bit quicker, but it's just like this was coming off a rookie season when he had an ACL injury. I don't know what the Bengals are doing in terms of keeping him healthy, upright, to where he keeps his calm demeanor, Joe Cool. But if he keeps getting his brains beat in, I don't know how much longer that's going to last. I've got a hot take too. Tony Pollard, I think, is a better running back than Zeke Elliott. I'm just putting it out there. I think the Cowboys are better offensively when Pollard is out there instead of Zeke Elliott. And I know Pollard had a touchdown where he runs away from the defense. I can't remember the last time Zeke Elliott did that. But, yeah, Cooper Rush, I mean, it's 1 week. We'll see. I'm not going to make too much out of that. But if he can at least weather the storm until Dak gets back, maybe the Cowboys have something. But it did make sense today. I thought for sure the Bengals would get right. And the fact that the Bengals are now 0-2 to start the season, sound the alarm. Everyone, it's funny because going into the year, usually the notion is the Super Bowl loser can't cope, but no one thought about that about the Bengals because we're all in on Burrow as a quarterback. I still am, but 0-2 to start the season. If you're Cincinnati, not a great start. Not a great start.
I kind of felt the Super Bowl hangover was going to come into play for both teams, the Bengals and the Rams. But the AFC is so much more loaded than the NFC. It's a lot harder to it's almost harder to pick who's coming out of the NFC because there's no dominant team in the NFC. Like you would think it would be the Rams, but all the stuff with Stafford's elbow, and they're not exactly the same team as last year. Tampa Bay, we just talked about them. Tom Brady is 1 billion years old. Like we don't know, and they're missing half of their offensive line. So that is a mess. The NFC South is a mess. It's just, I don't, it's hard to pick like who's going to come out of here. The AFC North, though, I felt like it was Baltimore's division to lose. And if I'm not mistaken, they lost today.
Yep. Lamar went off, but Tua did too for like the first time ever.
Dolphins outscored the Ravens 28-3 in the second half. They had 28-3 in the fourth quarter, 35 second half total points. Tua 36-50, 469, 6 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Tyreek Hill, 11 catches, 190, 2 touches. Waddle, 11 catches, 171, 2 touches. And by the way, they're on the same team. The Browns said, you know what? Joe Flacco's across the field from us. Let's pack it up and let's go home. Let's fight to play another day.
The Browns blew a 13-point lead in the final 1 minute and 22 seconds in the game. And so I'm reading this from ESPN Stats and Info right now. NFL teams had won the last 2,229 consecutive games when leading by at least 13 points in the final 2 minutes. Browns, historic
always
comeback for the Jets, or blowing it for the Browns, however you want to phrase that.
It sounds like Tua from Alabama. Like tank for Tua.
Yeah.
So it's not like that guy. But he's got one of his wide receivers in Jalen Waddle. So he's got that familiarity. And then you add the fastest dude in the league and Tyreek Hill. I'd keep an eye on Miami. I'd keep a long eye on Miami. They might be, there's always a team every year that pops up that no one really picked. And maybe it's Miami. Like this offense is dangerous.
Yeah, you can shut down one super fast guy, but can you shut down 2 in the same game, and for how long? And can you do it for 4 quarters? That's like the huge question. Bleav in Panthers, Desmond Johnson here joining us on the Bleav NFL Live. Desmond, man, thank you so much for joining us. We are going to spring you for the day. Throw out your socials, throw out all of your handles for your show. Great to see you, man. Always love having you come on the show. Always love talking to you, dude. So hopefully we can do it again, and be well.
Yeah, man. You can find me right there at the bottom on Twitter at Daz_3505, or you can follow Tobacco Road Sports Radio at Tobacco Radio. We're based here in North Carolina, so if you want to hear sports studio talk centered around Panthers, Hornets, NASCAR, ACC, stuff relevant here in the state of North Carolina, definitely follow Tobacco Road Sports Radio there, and then follow Bleav Podcast, Bleav Sports. There's one of these podcasts for all 32 Bleav or all 32 NFL teams now, with each of them with a player from that team on it. And we have Jonathan Stewart with us. We're 2 days a week now, Bleav in Carolina Panthers podcasts every Monday and Thursday. I've been hearing Stu and Skylar Callahan from Sports Illustrated go back and forth on the whole Matt Rule thing since the game ended on our phones. So we'll have a lot to say for tomorrow's episode. And maybe by Thursday, we're celebrating interim head coach Steve Wilkes. So, who knows? Maybe we could wish that into existence. It's not going to happen. We're going to lose to the Saints. So,
Desmond, hang on. I'm going to lift your spirits, because North Carolina, typically known for its hardwood play, at least in the college game. Duke, NC State, North Carolina, and Wake Forest, all 3-0 to start the season on the college landscape. So it's not all gloom and doom in North Carolina.
I'm still worried about friends and older friends that I have that made the trek up to Boone this Saturday that I haven't heard from. They're still MIA. They're Boone should just shut down for the next week and not even have classes. Those kids have been awake since last week. So I can only imagine what's going on up in Boone right now. But it's been a wild football season so far in North Carolina. It's been exciting to be back, so just happy to be here.
Desmond McGrann, thank you so much for coming on Bleav NFL Live. Hope to have you back. Hope to you're going to co-host a week with me. Hopefully we'll figure it out, but have a great Sunday, man, and Got Wilkes. Get it. Enjoy it. Hopefully it happens. Thanks, man.
Thanks, guys.
That was awesome. That
Dude,
was fantastic.
I love having him on. I love guesting on Tobacco Road Radio. That's been so amazing to always have on the show. Mark, before we bring on Bleav and Lions host Jack Kavanaugh, let's do a quick couple Steelers, quick hot Steelers minutes. We were talking about the AFC North, and Steelers lose today, 17-14. I think everyone thought on both sides it was going to be a low scoring game. The muff punt really kind of turned the tides there. But I will tell you right now, for Bleav in Steelers content, I'm feeling for you a little bit right now. And you're from Chicago, so you know what this is like. But I tell you, my beautiful, lovely wife, diehard Steelers fan, she channeled her inner 1994 talent scout and literally called Mitch Trubisky worthless and a talentless hack today. A talentless hack. Weigh in how. I know they play on Thursday night, so it's going to be tough to wrap our heads around this the next couple of days, but I think the leash is getting shorter. Do you agree?
Yeah, I'm with you there. Mitch is going to start Thursday night, shortened work week, going against the Browns as well on the road, divisional game. That's going to be the big thing going into this week. The two plays, really, the muff punt by Gunnar Olszewski. 2 plays before that, too, Joey. Cam Sutton, cornerback for the Steelers, dropped what was a sure interception. So those were really the 2 big plays. Yeah, those were really the 2 big plays, and the Patriots capitalize. So Mitch is going to be the guy in week 3, but if the Steelers offense continues to struggle, however you want to phrase it, where it's give Mitch a letter grade, it hasn't been good enough through 2 weeks, because a week ago against the Bengals, you win by 3 in overtime, despite winning the turnover battle 5-0 against the Bengals. And then today, you only put up 14 points. If your defense only allows 17 points, you should win in the NFL. And the Steelers, just point blank period, the offense has got to get better. It's got to get better on all facets of the game. I don't just throw Mitch under the bus. It's Matt Canada. It's the offensive line. It's the running game. It's just you got to be able to score points. If your defense only gives up 17, you should win in the NFL. There's really not a whole lot more to it than that, Joey.
Who do you think's in bigger trouble offensively right now? The Pittsburgh Steelers or the Indianapolis Colts, who got shut out today? And And Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan did not look good. I know they were missing Michael Pittman, but they still have you guys both have fantastic running backs. And I know that they're 2 opposite ends of the spectrum, where Mitch Trubisky is a little bit younger than Matt Ryan, who's won an MVP and went to a Super Bowl. But which team?
I'm going to go Colts. I'm going to go Colts because the Colts did not look great against the Texans. I know they rallied back to tie, but I'll go Colts just because a shutout, not putting up anything, is downright scary. And you would think with Jonathan Taylor, it's here's the thing too. Okay. If a defense lines up with an 8-man front, then someone's going to have to win a one-on-one battle on the outside. At least the Steelers, some flashes from Deontay Johnson today. I like Najee Harris per usual, but I'll go Colts just because shutout, man, that's the league encourages points like fantasy football. Hello. So I'll go Colts to answer your question.
They're literally trying to make it happen. And look, man, that's an in-division game against the Jacksonville Jaguars. They already have the stink from last year, losing that, the opportunity to get in the playoffs. All they had to do was beat the Jaguars, couldn't do it. And then again to get
actually, I'm glad you mentioned that, Joey, because you would think, and I know the roster is a little bit different from year to year, that the Colts would want to get some revenge from the final week of the 2021 season. Glad you mentioned that.
Let's bring in our next guest here. He's the host of Bleav in Lions. He's been on my show. I've been on his show. Another great member of the Bleav NFL roster here on Bleav NFL Live. We're bringing in Jack Kavanaugh. Jack, welcome to Bleav NFL Live, my friend. Your Detroit Lions. Every week, they're like a movie. It's up, it's down. There's comebacks, there's heroes, there's villains. And then this week, there was Jared Goff. How are you today? Welcome to the live.
Woo! Thank you for having me. It's truly a pleasure to be here on Bleav Live, talking about the Detroit Lions' dominant victory. And I say dominant for a couple of reasons. One, the score never felt particularly close, even though the Commanders tried to come back. Number 2, the Lions were without their 3 starting interior linemen. They were missing their left guard, Jonah Jackson, who was out today, center Frank Ragnow, who's an all-pro, actually, and a Pro Bowler with Jonah Jackson too. And then Hal Vaitais on injured reserve. So 3 new faces there, and they still bullied the Commanders' front 7. DeAndre Swift only needed 7 touches to go over 80 yards. Amon-Ra St. Brown with 180 total yards, catching the ball, running the ball. And then Aiden Hutchinson becomes the 4th youngest rookie in NFL history to record 3 sacks. So what a day for the Detroit Lions. It is a great time to be a Detroit Lions fan.
Joey, I tell you what, I feel like I'm watching an episode of Hard Knocks. And along those lines, Jack, did you like to see DeAndre Swift channel his inner Deuce Staley this afternoon?
Absolutely. The relationship between those two is just beautiful. And I tweeted earlier today, not even DeAndre Swift can stop DeAndre Swift tripping over his own feet, getting up to score the touchdown. He is an insane talent.
Jack, congratulations on the win. Let's stay on the positives here, because I am from the NFC North. I'm going to ask you about a concern with your Lions in just a second, but from a fantasy perspective, you're talking a lot about DeAndre Swift, but man, I think a lot of fantasy managers out there they drafted DeAndre Swift in the first round, and then they see Jamal Williams continuously getting 10 plus carries every single game. That happened again with 12 plus. Granted, Swifts were more of an impact, but kind of handicap for this. I mean, you're the Lions guy moving forward. I mean, this is something that Swift fantasy owners have to worry about, right?
It depends on what you mean by worry, because if you're worried in the sense that DeAndre Swift won't finish as an RB1, you're just being silly. There is still enough meat on the bones to finish as a top 12 running back. But if your concern is him finishing as the RB1, that's not going to happen with Jamal Williams getting those carries. The ceiling is just lowered a little bit. And so there's nothing wrong with having an RB1 on your fantasy roster. There will be some headaches, but in the grand scheme of things, DeAndre Swift produced on just 7 touches today.
And got through it with an ankle. He was a little questionable this week. I want to open this up to the floor a little bit here. We've been talking, Jack, a lot about quarterbacks today. Just because I feel like that there's a lot of different themes going on. You know, we led off the show with Trey Lance. Looks like he's out for the year with an ankle injury. Jimmy G has rubbed his magic lamp, and now he is once again quarterback of the San Francisco 49ers. Joe Burrow got sacked 7 times. Kyler Murray looks like they came back a little bit in that game. Tua had a huge game. Matt Ryan was terrible. Russell Wilson picked up the win. Pick a quarterback right now. Outside of Jared Goff, if you want to combo him, that's okay. But pick a quarterback right now that you think's arrows either going way up or way down after today's performance.
Well, there's a couple, and honestly, 2 of the best ones played each other today. Tua Tagovailoa with 6 touchdowns absolutely shut everyone up. And even though he had 2 interceptions, still, that come from behind victory, almost 200 yards each for Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Tua is looking like the quarterback they drafted him to be, whereas Lamar Jackson played phenomenal with the 4 touchdowns, 3 by air, 1 by land. But the Baltimore Ravens still have to figure out a contract for him. And so they did lose, which maybe puts a little bit more leverage in the Ravens negotiations, but Lamar did the hard carry for the team as well. The most yards by a running back was Justice Hill, who had the least carries. It was a mess. So the stock market is pointing way up for Tua and Lamar. They are raising their values both monetarily and just as media people in general.
Yeah, Mark, hop in on just some of these quarterbacks that you saw today. I mean, it looked like it was either feast or famine for a lot of these guys. We did cover Baker. It was kind of in the middle a little bit. What quarterback stood out to you? I mean, Lamar Jackson, too, as well, in a losing effort. He looks ready to play this year specifically. I know we keep going back to the AFC North, but, again, there's a lot of storylines going on in that division.
You're on mute, good sir.
Can I cheat and say Patrick Mahomes? Because
you can.
Because we want to have the sexy pick in the AFC West. The Broncos today put up 16 points today. They did get the win against the Texans, but it's like, okay, yeah, we can pick Herbert, or if you like the Raiders and the Derek Carr and Devontae Adams reunion.
Meanwhile,
Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs are 2-0.
Raiders are still tied, really quick. I don't mean to interrupt you, but Raiders are still tied with the Cardinals right now in overtime.
Yeah.
The Cardinals might be the worst team in the NFL.
Well, and that's
Come
so
on now. Come on. I mean, let's be real here. They're terrible. They have not looked good through the first 2 weeks. We'll see what happens today, but they did not look good in week 1 against Kansas City.
Well,
if Kyler's worth his due and he just got his big deal and they got smoked in week 1, I know he doesn't have D-Hop. I know he's out for the first 6 weeks, but come on, it wasn't even close in week 1. And overtime in week 2. Why are we betting against the Chiefs? Like, it's just like, I'm going to go to Mahomes. It's an easy answer, but it is my answer.
And Jack, hop in on this one. I want to. You're onto something here, Mark. After week 2 now, if you could say, we know this team is bad, right? Like, are there a couple teams that we can say right now that we know are bad football teams? What comes to mind first is probably, I think the Cardinals are definitely probably in that category right there. Is there another team, like, off the top of your head? I mean, are the Broncos the worst team in the AFC West? Is that starting to sort of flesh itself out? I know it's a little too early to say, but are there bad teams? What's a bad team right now in the NFL, in your opinion?
Well, first with the Cardinals, I did want to point out that the Raiders are allowing this comeback on the weekend. A new Call of Duty beta releases. And so Kyler Murray is predisposed to playing bad. He did, but the Raiders couldn't hold him off from attempting a comeback. So that's disappointing. In terms of the bad teams in the NFL, I think the Broncos very well might be. Jerry Jeudy is now out with a shoulder injury, at least for today, as is Patrick Surtain. So they struggled and they're getting worse with injuries. And then I think the Seahawks really are a bad team as well. They got blown out by the 49ers, and I think they were all amped up to face Russ. But if we agree that the Broncos are bad and the Seahawks barely beat the Broncos, the transitive property would say that the Seahawks are also bad, and the Colts might also be a bad team.
Yeah, I'm with you with the Colts for sure, Jack. I'm with you there. I'm just looking at all of the records right now.
Seahawks,
Colts for sure. I'm not quite there with the Bengals just because the offense is still so potent, and I want to see more continuity with the new offensive lineman. Offensive line has not looked great through the first 2 weeks. Atlanta and Carolina too. I mean, Atlanta and Carolina 0-2. Like, what's for both of those teams? Like, and let's go to Atlanta, Joey, because we haven't talked about the Falcons at all. Yeah. What would be the upside other than, okay, Kyle Pitts excites you, but what's the upside if you're a Falcons fan? They start the season 0-2. I'll throw them in the mix too.
Yeah, in terms of the Falcons, in my opinion, what's the incentivized thing is they have, as you mentioned, Kyle Pitts, they have Drake London, and the idea is to be as terrible as possible this year to get themselves a quarterback next year, right? And then you can kind of pick it up and start rolling a little bit. I think that's what they're saying, and that's the best part about them too. What if they're the fun, awful team where they're like in every game and they do something wildly dumb in the end to lose, and you're. Maybe if you're a Falcons fan, you're heartbroken, but you're like, oh, well, we get a little bit closer to that number 1 pick there. One I want to throw out there, are the Patriots bad? I know that they won today, but let's be honest, I think that had a lot more to do with what the Steelers' issues are that they're trying to work through right now than anything. Just watching it, it's just what wide receiver excites you? They can't get the ball to Hunter Henry. The running backs are fine. Are the Patriots bad?
Joey, it was a boring game to watch today. Like, point blank period. It was a boring game to watch for the home opener in Pittsburgh today. So, yeah, I mean, you got the nucleus and the genius of Belichick, but it's just like the question I'd ask you this, in particularly skill position, like, who's the Patriots' best player? Like, is Mac Jones the best player on the Patriots? Maybe Judon on the defensive side of the ball, but like, ask yourself, like, who's the star player for the Patriots that you enjoy watching? And it's just like, we're all football guys here, and I think we'd each struggle to answer that question.
Yeah,
Jack, hop in.
Yeah, absolutely. It's hard to answer that. Is it Jacoby Myers, the slot receiver who had 90 yards today? He's consistent, but he's not sexy at all. Nelson Aguilar, he mossed the guy today, but it's Nelson Aguilar.
He had a great catch.
He did, but it's still Nelson Aguilar. He's going to have that, and then he's going to have 2 drops next week. So,
speaking of sexy, the Patriots sideline is a murderer's row of real lookers. We've got Belichick, we've got Matt Patricia, His son, Steve Belichick, is just going for it. I mean, harder than he's ever gone for it before with the hair and the look and everything. It's a real.
We know what Joey's Halloween costume's going to be, Jack.
Does he still have the mullet?
Oh God, it's bigger. It's bigger and better than it ever was. It's a
Jack. It was out in full force this afternoon in Pittsburgh.
I didn't see any shots of him today, unfortunately. Had the Lions game on the main screen and Red Zone on the other one, but just never happened to see the beautiful face of Steve Belichick.
His visage violated the terms and services of a national broadcast, so they had to do one of those quick cuts, those quick edit cuts for 2 seconons. Jack,
oh goodness!
Final question. What's that?
I just pulled it up. Oh goodness! Goodness gracious!
Burn that into your brain. Final question for you. We just got a couple minutes before we're going to hop off on Bleav NFL Live. The Lions have played. The Lions have won. That's got to feel pretty good for an NFC North fan of yourself and the Lions in general. But now all the other NFC North teams are going to be playing. Obviously, Bears, Packers tonight, Vikings, Eagles tomorrow night. Real quick, give us your game predictions. Handicap those last 2 games for us before you go. Who's going to win?
Oh, who's going to win? Well, the spread is 10 points. Bears are going to cover, but I think the Packers are going to end up winning. But it's going to be a close, boring game where the under's going to hit as well. It's going to be frustrating. Vikings versus Eagles. I think the Eagles are going to be able to eke this one out at home. That's going to be a fun matchup, though, because explosive offenses, but also underrated pass rushing defenses. So I think the Vikings come away with the win. And then just to throw in the other Monday Night Football game, the Bills are going to stomp the Titans. Titans are terrible. Titans might be another bad team, but I don't want to slam that door until we see them face the Bills.
Yeah, that's a great call. We shall see. Jack, thank you so much for hopping on the show, man. Bleav NFL Live. You're going to be able to check out Jack the rest of the season. He's definitely going to come back and be a resident guest, probably be a co-host one week with me. Throughout your socials, plug Bleav in Lions, man. Thanks for coming on and happy Sunday.
Thank you for having me. Truly an honor to talk with 2 football geniuses here on such great shows. Always a pleasure. And I also do have a Steelers jersey as well. Can't in good conscience put up a Bears jersey, but I do like what Justin Fields is accomplishing. Excited for them. So thank you again for having me. An absolute honor. Follow me at Javanaugh87. Check out the Bleav in Lions podcast with me and Glover Quinn. And until next week or whenever I come back, we will see you next time.
Thanks, Jack.
The next time, Jack, we're on together, I'm bringing on my aviator shade so I can
we're
match
gonna
your
match
energy.
up. Yeah.
Love it.
You've set the standard now.
Love it. And at least we've got the 2 unbuttoned shirts, just hanging a little loose, show off the chest hair.
Let it loose.
Jack, go enjoy a Caesar on my behalf. I know you're a fan of the Caesars.
Definitely. I deserve it after that win. All right. Take care, guys.
See you guys. See you, man. That was Bleav in Lions host Jack Kavanaugh. We got just a couple minutes left here on Bleav NFL Live. And you know what? We're going to find a little time to preview Bears-Packers that's coming up in about 15 minutes. Mark, I'm going to cede the floor to you, my friend. Don't make your final score prediction tonight, but how are you feeling this game out right now? Bears-Packers, as we know, they haven't beaten them in 3 years. What do you expect? What do you expect from this game tonight?
Well, I know it's going to be in Lambeau Field, and the Packers are a 10-point favorite, have to win because the Packers did not look good in week 1 at all. I think it's finally stopped monsooning in Chicago. Maybe weather could play a factor yet again because I don't know what the heck to expect from this Bears team because in week 1, it was just like they were playing in the rain. It's like almost when you're a kid outside playing in the snow or playing in the rain. I don't know what the heck to think with this Bears team. I'll say this. I go back to the Bears. Their skill position players are not great. There's a lot that falls on Justin Fields' shoulders. He looked good in week 1 and beat the 49ers. But again, a lot of it was due to the weather elements. I think the Packers are going to come out slinging because you have an uphill battle in this league. I forget what the statistic is, but you start out 0-2 and it's just like the odds of you making the playoffs are like slim to none. So I'd expect the Packers to give the Bears their best punch tonight coming out of the gate. And can the Bears respond? Can they stay on their feet? That's really going to be the big thing because, again, you start out 0-2. No, it's a 17-game regular season now, but you have an uphill battle in terms of making the playoffs. And this is a Packers team where there are favorites for a lot of people in the NFC, particularly in what traditionally has been a weaker division the last several years.
I completely agree with you. This is an important game for the Packers for sure. And, typically water is wet and Aaron Rodgers scores a touchdown on the first drive against the Bears. I'm already anticipating that happening. So don't panic, Bears fans. Come on. That's just like, this is the entrance fee to playing Aaron Rodgers in a Packers game being down 7-0. On the Bears side, I hope that they kind of can weather that storm a little bit, especially if you're right, man. Those first offensive drives look like the first few offensive drives that they had in the first half, week one. Even in the bad conditions, it wasn't even raining like crazy at that particular point. But yeah, I'm with you on where I think the key to the game is the Bears stopping Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, stopping that running game. I think that gives them a great shot because I think that's going to help like elongate the game a little bit. But you're right, man. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to come out and want to make a message, sling it early, put some points on the board, do the discount double check. And I think in his mind, he wants to be up 17-3 in the second quarter. You know what I mean? Whether that can happen or not, we'll see. I think that they can play a low scoring, tit for tat game because the Packers weapons aren't really that great either. But I think the Packers are going to push it early, and it's just going to be see how this young Bears defense responds to Aaron Rodgers, a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, and I'm not going to start to dig Aaron Rodgers' grave for the same reason as Brady, because remember a year ago, the Packers got smoked in week 1 of the 2021 season, and Aaron Rodgers went on to be the league MVP. So I don't try to take away too much from 1 week of football. I kind of evaluate it in quarters, Joey, at 4-game sample sizes, but it's just like, man, the Bears, especially on the road too in Lambeau, they have their work cut out for them. And this Bears team, almost like the Patriots, it's like, okay, yeah, David Montgomery, Mooney, the receiver, I know Kmet, and we know who the Bears players are. But like for your average Joe casual fan, other than Mooney and Montgomery, it's just like, who the heck is Fields throwing the ball to? He can't throw the ball to himself. That's at least kind of the perception from the outside looking into this, Joey.
No, and it's warranted and it's deserved until told otherwise. I mean, a lot of these guys, I think, when you rank them that they're so low in their skill weapon, in their skill weapon areas, because we don't have a lot of NFL professional tape on a lot of these people. So obviously they're always going to be projected pretty low. And I'm kind of curious to see how they flush that moving forward. I will say this though. So Mark, having said all that, this is reality. That is fact. The Packers should win tonight. They're more talented, better quarterback, better defense, all that kinds of stuff. What does it do for the Chicago Bears and expectations if they win tonight? Because I'm going to lose my mind. I'm going to lose my mind, Mark. I'm going to lose my mind. But what does that do for a young team?
Hey, we'll fly back to Chicago, and I'll meet you on Rush Street, and we'll go out tonight, Joey. How's that sound? Call off work on Monday.
We'll be there at 2 a.m. We'll be in ties till 4 or 3.
And hey, we won't leave a good time for a good time. We'll wind up at one spot. We'll post up. No, for the Bears, in all honesty, I think getting the running game going, get Montgomery going, get Herbert going, try to control the clock, and then keep Rodgers off the field. Almost have your defense, have your offense serve as your defense. Just take it out of Rodgers' hands. Easier said than done. No doubt about that. But that would be my game plan for the Bears. And they do have 2 studs in the backfield. I like Montgomery. I like Herbert. So get them going early. Be creative. Get them out in space. Get them in one-on-one matchups. Easier said than done. And if the Packers want to load up 8-man boxes, then whether it's Mooney, whether it's someone else on the outside, the 25-year-old rookie out of Tennessee, someone's got to eat on the outside. If the Packers load up the box and say, hey, Justin Fields, beat us with your arm downfield, someone has to win those one-on-one matchups. I know the Packers have very talented cornerbacks, but that would be my recipe for Chicago is keep number 12, Aaron Rodgers, on the sideline, get the ball out of his hands. A lot easier said than done, though.
And it's a little cliche, but on offense, Luke Getsy, obviously coming as a quarterback's coach from the Packers last year, Matt LaFleur going up against Luke Getsy, who can read each other's mail better early on in terms of, calling. In terms of the Bears calling those looks, right? They're going to have to pull a couple of tricks out of their hat, and they're going to have to execute in those moments. And can Luke Getsy dial it up at the right time? I mean, that is the way that you walk yourself through as rationally as you can the Bears possibly winning tonight. Mark, do you have a final score? Who do you think wins?
I've got the Packers 31, Bears 21. Just at home again. Packers backs up against the wall. And again, 0-2 start. Look at whatever the statistic is, but you have a very, very uphill battle And this is going to be what everyone talks about come Monday and Tuesday, Joey, is of all the 0-2 teams, who's going to be the team that comes back and makes it into the playoff hunt and is actually potentially a contender. I don't see the Packers 0-2 after tonight's game. I love the Bears. I like what they did in week 1, but also, is that a fluke in just absolutely crazy weather in Chicago? Again, I'm not sure if it stopped raining there. So I'll take the Packers at home at Lambeau Field.
Yeah, I think the Bengals at 0-2 are going to be that darling of the conversation come Monday morning. Mark, we got to get out of here because we're going to go watch some Bears right now. Man, thank you so much, dude. I love it when we get together, dude. I really appreciate you taking the time. Throw out your socials, throw out Bleav in Steelers. I know you guys got some great episodes coming up. There's going to be some decisions that are going to have to be made. Where's Ike going to land? Stick with Mitch or roll with Kenny? Time to pick the picket. What's it going to be? You're going to have to check out that show this week. Throw them out there for us. And,
yes.
Good to see you, man.
I am at MD Bergen. You can see that on your screen right now. MD BERGIN. Check out Bleav in Steelers twice a week as well. And look, it's going to be awfully hard to keep Kenny Pickett off the field because, Joey, I always say this, if you're asking the question, you already know the answer. Hopefully the Steelers can get right in the coming weeks, and they've got a shortened week Thursday night on the road against the Cleveland Browns divisional matchup. So excited for that one. I'm excited for tonight's Bears-Packers game as well. I know we share Chicago ties, so it's just like, man, Aaron Rodgers has been the Bears' kryptonite for years, and it's been like 30 years of between Favre and Rodgers, and it's just like, when's our time to eat, Joey? Maybe tonight can be that night if you're a Bears fan. We'll see.
We had it with Favre, and then my good co-host Corey Wooten, the Favre destroyer himself, took Favre down. We were the one that ushered him out, and after years and years and decades of Aaron Rodgers torturing us, it will come at some point, my friend. It will come. I don't know about tonight. I don't know if it's a one-play Shea McClellan breaking his collarbone situation. I don't wish injury.
Yeah. Hey, does Corey have any eligibility left? We could get him back out in the field to do it'll be all business. It'll be pure business, Joey.
He can play a series.
Start the Jordan Love era early. Well, I don't know. 3 times a charm. I don't think Jordan Love's going to hit fire 3 times in a row if you're Green Bay.
If he does,
I'm manifesting this. I'm speaking this into existence.
35 years is enough. With Jordan Love, it'd be almost 50 years. it'd be brutal. I can't take it. But I have the Packers winning tonight too as well. I hope Justin Fields shuts my mouth.
What's your final score, Joey?
24-20 Packers win.
Okay, so you have the Bears covering though.
Oh yeah. At 10, honestly, I think that there's a lot of scenarios. Now, look, I think a young Bears defense at some point is going to have some really ugly performances where they're going to get gashed. Tonight could easily be that night against a Hall of Fame quarterback. I just think that they're riding a little momentum right now. They're playing fast. They're playing smart. I think that sticks around to keep the score close-ish for a while. And honestly, I think it's almost like a backdoor cover. It's 24-14 or something, and they get a touchdown or you know what I mean? Something happens a little bit later on to make that happen. We got to roll though, Mark.
Yep.
Thank you so much, everyone, for checking out the Bleav NFL live stream. We are here every Sunday, 4 p.m. Pacific time, 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern time. We roll for an hour right after the afternoon games and in between that Sunday night football game because let's be honest, there's nothing else to watch on TV, so you might as well just come and hang out with us and talk football. We have a wonderful roster of 32 NFL teams with 32 former NFL players, all connected to each and every single NFL team that are going to be on this show all year long. Thank you so much for checking it out. I'm Joey Christopoulos, my co-host, Mark Bergen. Enjoy the NFL day. And if the Bears win, I'm going to lose my mind. Who's coming with me?
Thanks, Joey.
See you, Mark.